It's district breakdown time, and look over there, that's Dixie. He's ready to talk 6-5A Division II. We've got a reigning defending champion to talk about, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about him. But before we talk about it, I'm interested. This is a 10-team district, only district around here that did the zone play, which was basically a 4-game mad dash to get into a mini playoffs deal. How do you feel that went last year? As an analyst, how do you feel that little zone deal went?
I didn't like it personally. I mean, we had this pretty much set out by, I think, there's 4 weeks left in the season because, they have their 2 week little playoff where everybody who was in that playoff makes it. And it was pretty much sewn up in like mid October. We knew who the 4 playoff teams were going to be. So I didn't like it. And I personally think from hearing some of the feedback and for whatever reason, coming up in our next realignment, there's a 10 team kind of thing. I don't know if they'll necessarily do that again. But with South Oak Cliff, I think that was really the impetus. But South Oak Cliff really needed the 4 games to get them ready, and that did help get them ready. I mean, they took their lumps in non-district like we thought that they would, but come December, Todd 2 times was holding up the ring as the reigning and defending state champion. But Ward, I think I'm going to anger because we have a lot of friends at South Oak Cliff, and I know the South Dallas contingent, especially in DeSoto, really did not like you after you were very disrespectful at the mouth last year. But I'm going to go ahead and say right now, here in April, early May, as we're taping these things, that South Oak Cliff will not three-peat. I just do not see them having the depth to do it. They have a very good team, and they're going to be very good, but remember last year, Ward, they played Mansfield Summit in the first round and barely got by them. Mansfield Summit arguably brings back more talent than South Oak Cliff does. Now, South Oak Cliff will have that element of who's going to transfer, and are they going to have any surprises for us? They gave us a lot of surprises last year. In that Lovejoy game, they unfolded a couple of new looks. And some new players that really hadn't been contributing, and all of a sudden step up. But Ward, they graduated like 16 to 18 all district players. And that is a ridiculous amount of talent to have to replace. South Oak Cliff might be able to do it, but last couple of years, we've been talking about South Oak Cliff. They're bringing everybody back. But this year is going to be the first year that they're going to have to kind of do it more organically. But the reason why this whole zone thing, to get back to your original question, is I just kind of rambled on a little bit, was to help set this up. I don't know if the other 9 teams benefited from that. And next year, when we have a DEC vote, maybe that holds a little more weight.
Let's get back to the district and how you feel it's going to fall out after SOC. And maybe you want to talk a little bit more about SOC as well, but after them, who else you think is going to have their skins on the wall?
Last year, I think one of the biggest surprises when remember we divide this thing up to a north zone and a south zone. Our north zone, we had Woodrow Wilson, Hillcrest, Conrad, Thomas Jefferson, and Seagoville. And in our south zone, we have South Oak Cliff, Spruce, Adamson, Samuel, and Kimball. So it's basically 2 little mini districts, top 2 teams in each of those 5-team districts go on to the zone playoffs that we talked about. And last year, Seagoville really kind of surprised us. I thought we were going to have Woodrow Wilson and Hillcrest. In fact, Hillcrest had that hurt. Weren't you at that Hillcrest game against Frisco Emerson like the first week of the year, Ward?
It was Woodrow Wilson and Emerson, wasn't it? I believe.
I mean, they played them both, and they both had the.
I was at the Woodrow Wilson game, and it was not that close, so no.
Well, they had some crazy comebacks and shenanigans last year, and I thought Hillcrest was going to make it into the zone playoffs. But Seagoville ended up doing it, and Seagoville has former Duncanville coordinator Steven Jackson coaching over there, and he has really rejuvenated that program. You can see a lot of excitement, and they got some really good skill players coming back. They got their quarterback Caden Eichelboom. That's just a kind of a football name, Ward. You bring the Eichelboom, and Seagoville is going to be bringing the Eichelboom. For one more year. Also, Ronald Manning Jr. was a fantastic running back. I think Seagoville has to be considered one of the top 2 teams in the North Zone, if not the top team. I'm going to go ahead and just stick with Woodrow Wilson. They've been kind of that number 2 team for a little while. Coach Fish, this is his second year, and we've talked about in other district breakdowns how when you have that second year, you're a little more calm. You kind of understand the system a little bit more. But Cam McGuire, a really talented quarterback, which you saw at that game, game. He'll be back. Andres Villanueva, a really talented running back, will be there, and Brady Battle, the very talented defensive back, will be coming back for Woodrow Wilson. So I got in the North, I think Woodrow Wilson's going to be number one, and Seagoville's going to be number two. You can never rule out my Hillcrest Panthers. Jacob Ramon, former Plano East Panther, now a Hillcrest Panther. He's just one of those guys who's got to be a Panther no matter where he goes. If he goes to college, he'll be a Pitt Panther, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they graduated a lot, so it's going to be a challenge for him, especially with all the skill players that Seagoville has coming back. Ford Morris and Prophet Highshaw are two players that he's going to have coming back. But I still think that they're probably just going to be on the outside looking in. Conrad is a team that I think that we really need to keep an eye on. Maybe not this year, but based on the iteration of how things work out, maybe next year they're going to be a team that we're talking about. Coach Ragsdale, been a longtime favorite. You know what he did over at Adamson. Everybody loves Coach Ragsdale. They got their quarterback and their running back coming back. Both are sophomores to be juniors, LaDavian Frost Harris and Marcus Johnson. I think Thomas Jefferson's going to be doing what Thomas Jefferson has done the last couple of years. I think they're going to struggle. But, you're talking about, Ward, how kind of that 5-game schedule, that zone scheduling. I think it's really good for a team like Thomas Jefferson. Because they're going to have 2 games at the end of the year to kind of build some momentum. They're going to have a chance to win a couple of games, be competitive in a couple of games. And I think that's kind of good for them. So everybody playing equally minded teams by the end, I think that speaks well. But South Oak Cliff, they are a fun team to watch. Todd 2 times has got 2 rings going on now. Will Little really stepped out. We talked about that Lovejoy game where he kind of came upon his own. Carter Kopecki was thought to be a really good quarterback coming back. Danny Green. But all those really good players. Jamari Colley was a fantastic linebacker and wide receiver. He's going to be coming back. But how is that defense going to be? I think South Oak Cliff's going to have some offensive answers. Last year, we talked about how if their offense can figure it out, we know their defense is going to be there. What's their defense going to be like this year? I think that's going to be a big question. And that South Zone for number 2, I really like Kimball. Bam Harris earned the coaching position last year, and he has brought an energy to that program that we haven't seen in a while at Kimball. He's a former Eagle, even though we don't like to talk about that as Commander and Cowboy fans. But he brings that experience from playing in the NFL. And they got the triplets coming back. They got Truss Bro, a very talented quarterback coming back. Rashawn Parker, a very talented freshman running back who's going to have 3 more years there. And Jordan Martin, he's going to be a pretty good player as well. I think those are pretty solid number 1 and 2 in the South Zone. Spruce, I've got number 3. And then I'm going to have Adamson number 4 and Samuel number 5. So I think the 4 playoff teams are going to be the same 4 playoff teams that we saw last year in Woodrow Wilson, Seagoville, Kimball, and South Oak Cliff.
I agree. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in this district. See who makes those seeding playoff games down at the end there. Only district that we have that has a nice little mad dash to an extra playoff season, an extra postseason for us. So I like that. Next week, we're going to talk 7-5A Division II, and then we'll wrap up Division II, move on up to Division I. So I know you're ready for that. I know you got some things to say about it.
I don't know if you're ready for that, Ward, because of the controversy of talking about Lovejoy. All bets are off when we're going to talk about Lovejoy and Melissa and some of the great football that's going to be in 7-5A. But you'll have to tune in next week to find out what those opinions will be.
They're going to be calling Dixie Wendy's because he's going to be bringing the beef. He's bringing the beef. We'll see y'all next week.
Where's the beef?